Hello folks, and welcome back to my channel. Today I have something a little bit different for all of us. I'd like to sit down and talk about some of my personal thoughts surrounding neurodivergency and the piercing industry. And I am going to preface this video by saying a few things. One, I am not a licensed mental health expert, therapist, psychologist, any or all of the above. I am just someone who is neurodivergent myself, who has spent a lot of time in therapy and a lot of time in this industry, and I just have some thoughts and theories that I want to kind of like spitball with all y'all today. So please understand that this entire video is just my personal thoughts, views, and observations, and take that as you will. And then the other thing I'd like to add is a little bit of my background. I myself am neurodivergent. I've been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder along with complex post-traumatic stress disorder and some other smatterings of mental health delightfulness, including probably some autism, ADHD spectrum stuff that we are just leaving alone for right now because I do not have the space to work on it. While I have been fortunate enough and privileged enough to have medical diagnoses in my lifetime, not everyone is, and this is a page where we stand with self-diagnosis given the amount of obstacles that face people from all walks of life and inequalities that face people in trying to get a mental health care diagnosis. The end of this video is to be a safe space for other folks who are neurodivergent and in the industry or interested in the industry to just kind of talk about some stuff that I feel like I've noticed over the years. Rude or hurtful comments, or especially people trying to police other people's mental health history in the comments, is just going to get deleted, so this is your warning. Okay, now that I've gotten that out of the way, I want to talk about neurodivergency in the piercing industry because I feel like I see quite a high number of people who have neurodivergency really attracted to body piercing and body modification and tattooing, and just a very high number of other neurodivergent people in this industry. And I kind of want to talk about that and some of the observations that I've made during my career. Now for me, piercing really became a career because it started out as a special interest. I was like 12 or 13. I had seen a couple people with piercings and I had absolutely fallen madly in love with them. I was obsessed with my grandfather's tattoos from the military from like a very, very young age. And I loved like drawing on my skin and having temporary tattoos. And once I got old enough to really start like hyper fixating on things, piercings really quickly became my special interest. Like, I was making whole PowerPoint presentations for my mom at 13 about why I should be allowed to get my nostril pierced with like research that I had pulled from BME and from the Association of Professional Piercers and from people on Tumblr. I was like watching Modify, reading National Geographic magazines, because back then that's what you really had access to for learning about a lot of piercings and modifications, and definitely reading like books and content that I really shouldn't have been at that age about tattoos and piercings, but again, this was like a hyperfixation and a special interest. I could just spend hours reading old BME threads and mod blog posts and like trudging through the annals of Tumblr for like piercing and tattoo and modification content. And I was just obsessed. Like, I just devoured every bit of content I could about it. I was like so enamored with this concept of body piercing and things like that. And so, you know, I kind of naturally followed that path into getting into the industry at a very young age, and kind of quickly realized that this industry is, or was at the time, not really set up for neurodiverse people. And I will never forget quite a few interactions I had with my first boss where he was like yelling and screaming at me about something that he thought should have been very obvious that I should have done, and my brain did not compute things that way, or dealing with the emotional drain of working with so many people all day long and not really understanding why I was so just exhausted physically and mentally after a day of work and interactions with people, where so many of my other coworkers clearly did not feel the same. And as I grew up and spent more time in this industry, I started talking with a lot more people who had similar experiences to mine. A lot of other neurodivergent people who were very much attracted to piercing or tattooing as a special interest from a young age, who dealt with similar struggles of just feeling like they did not fit in this industry, did not understand a lot of the social cues and social norms that surrounded being a tattoo artist or a body piercer, but who were just plunging forward anyway, figuring it out as they went, and making it work for them. And I've especially noticed, and this is in no way to discount male piercers who are also neurodivergent, but I definitely feel like I've noticed more female and AFAB and like non-binary and trans and queer folks, specifically in the piercing industry, who seem to be neurodivergent with piercing as like a special interest. And I kind of feel like it's because it's a more acceptable special interest for a lot of us to have, because it relates to like aesthetics and physicality and the body, but also many of us have also dealt with experiences of trauma and harm to our bodies. And piercing and tattooing can be such a concrete way to deal and process that trauma and that harm, but also process our emotions and our feelings with our bodies. And I think that is very attractive to how a lot of us grow up and are socialized and the experiences they have. But I definitely think there is something about body piercing that does really draw in a lot of neurodivergent people. And some of that is like what I just mentioned, like the ability to process and feel things with their body. Piercing, for me, and like stretching my ears, it has a quality that is almost stim-like massaging my earlobes every night, like stretching and putting in new weights, the fun of like wiggling my ears once they were big enough for my lobes to like move around with jewelry and ear weights. Something very stim-like qualities to that. Also to the feelings that getting a piercing or a tattoo has in my body, like that endorphin and adrenaline rush that comes along with it. Super calming, super centering. There are few times during the day that my brain feels quieter and comfier and more at home than it does when I'm getting pierced and getting tattooed. And I've spoken to a lot of my neurodivergent clients who have expressed the same, that getting a piercing, getting a tattoo, it kind of turns off some of the other activity and energy in their brain for a little bit and allows them to relax and center themselves and focus themselves. And for some folks I've talked to, that effect can last days after getting a piercing and tattoo. And I think that is something that has like this very attractive quality to a lot of us. And I think part of why I wanted to talk about this is because there is a lot of discourse, especially in some public spaces, about how neurodivergency and things like tattoo and body piercing are not compatible and don't align. And a lot of this comes from harmful stereotypes surrounding neurodivergency, that, oh, like people who are neurodivergent just like trains and buses and computers and mechanical things, and they're not good at working with people. So something that's as intimate as guiding people through the emotional connective experience of getting tattooed and pierced seems this weird disconnect. And I will quite literally never forget a thread that I saw in one of the professional forums where multiple leaders and studio owners and managers in this industry were openly saying, I would never hire someone with borderline personality disorder. I would never hire someone with autism. I would never hire someone neurodivergent. They're too hard to work with. They're not a good fit for this industry. And that was only like 2 years ago that I saw that get posted, and that actually like genuinely made me go home and cry. And then write this piece that I posted on my blog about being a piercer with borderline personality disorder and acknowledging the ways in which that disorder made it difficult to do my job, but also acknowledging the ways in which I felt like that also was a bit of a superpower for me. With borderline personality disorder, I feel most of my emotions in an incredibly intense, heightened way, and that can be exhausting and debilitating quite often. But when I'm in the piercing room with a client, there is this tangible emotional energy in the room that I pick on. Whether a client is excited or nervous or stressed or sad or angry or whatever it may be, I just feel those emotions so deeply and feel my connections with clients so deeply that even I feel like in some of those brief moments of interaction where I'm working with a client for maybe just 10 or 15 or 20 minutes on something, I feel like I'm able to really tap into what they're feeling in that moment, to really connect with them emotionally. And also, because I emote in such a large way, when I'm excited about a project or sensitive to the pain or the nervousness they're experiencing, or sharing in an emotional experience with them, it is just so heightened and elevated that it can make those experiences, I think, a little bit more intense, a little bit more intimate, a little bit more intentional, and I really feel this incredibly strong, genuine emotional connection with my clients in the room. And I've talked to other piercers with BPD who say they feel the same. There's lots of negatives and drawbacks to these different disorders. There's also positives and strengths, and the way BPD allows me to emotionally connect to my clients in such a deep way and really feel their feelings with them, but also bring my feelings into the space and bring my excitement and happiness and confidence when a client is nervous and scared to help kind of guide them through the experience. It's amazing. And I look back as someone who spends a lot of time working on piercing history at some of the journal entries and the personal writings we have from folks who have been pioneers in the industry or just very dedicated, very enthusiastic clients, and I see some of those signs of neurodivergence. Some of those signs in the way that they talk about the experience of piercing and tattooing in their body, or their hyperfixation on elements of piercing and tattooing, or the way piercing and tattooing is a gateway to allow them to more easily interact with other people and in different social settings and situations to allow them to create new bonds with people. And like I said, these are just my personal observations. I wanted this to be a really honest video, so I didn't like super script this out. I kind of just wanted to collect some thoughts that I've been having as someone who's neurodivergent and in the piercing industry, and have been having a lot of interactions with more clients and more piercers than ever before, talking about neurodivergency, talking about piercing as a special interest, but also talking about the way the physicality of piercing and tattooing affects our brains, and for me kind of like feels good for my brain and for my mind in a way that I'm still trying to figure out how to best put into words. But I think there really is something to be said for the way piercing and tattooing allows us to process emotional thoughts and emotional energy with our bodies, the calming effect that this endorphin and energy rush can have on us, and what it can do for our brain that really does draw a lot of neurodivergent people. And we already know that there is a distinct and proven link between trauma survivors and body modification and body art and finding like release and comfort in that. That has been well studied and well looked at, and we know a lot about that. I wonder if there isn't also a similar link when it comes to neurodivergency, and I would love to see someone with more knowledge and experience than I look at and examine and explore that link and connection, because I feel like I definitely see it with not only my peers in the industry who end up working as tattoo artists and body piercers, front of house and jewelry designers, but also with my clients. The amount of clients who I see come in and talk about piercing as their special interest and their hyperfixation, who talk about piercing and tattooing as a stim, who talk about the way it calms things in their minds. There is undeniably something there that I would love to see explored and looked at more closely, because I think there is a reason why so many folks who are neurodivergent are so attracted to modifying their bodies and the experiences that come along with tattoo and piercing. I would love it if y'all left me a comment and let me know if this is something that you've experienced, if you're neurodivergent and you like piercings like this. I know a couple of you have commented and said like piercings are your special interest and that's why you like my channel. Tell me more about that. Tell me what draws piercing to you for your special interest, what you like about it. I'm like really genuinely interested in hearing that. But also let me know in the comments if you've noticed something like this, if you feel like there is a connection between it, or let me know if you think I'm totally off base and you think that this is just a completely biased perspective from my own experience as a neurodivergent piercer. I'm open to the fact that that may be the case too. I just feel such a connection here that I really wanted to start a conversation about this and open up a space and a discourse where we can talk about things like neurodivergency when it comes to piercing and things like that. And okay, honestly, this is now completely off topic, but I keep thinking about making a Discord. I don't have the time for a Discord. I don't have the space to moderate a Discord. I'm not even that good at using Discord in general, but I really want a space where I can talk with all of y'all and have like more meaningful discussions and more meaningful conversations. And I don't know where the best place to do that is, but making this video really makes me want to sit down and have cool conversations with folks about this. So I don't know. Maybe I'll make a post on my channel and get feedback about that, but I just had to bring it up because it's something I'm thinking about. I hope this opens a conversation about neurodivergency as it applies to the piercing industry. I can't wait to hear all of your feedback, but also if you are watching this video and you are neurodivergent, no matter what that looks like for you, I want you to know that the piercing industry is a place where you belong, and the tattoo industry is a place where you belong, and there are absolutely dozens of very successful neurodivergent tattoo artists and piercers, or folks who just have a lot of tattoos and piercings and are also neurodivergent. And this is a space that we belong in, this is a space that we thrive in, and I just want to encourage you to feel like this is something that you can do if it's something that you're passionate about. I've spent a long time being afraid talking so openly about my neurodivergency and my BPD because I was very insecure that it made me a bad piercer or made me someone that people wouldn't want to hire, especially seeing threads like what I've seen about this in the industry. But if some of us don't start speaking up and being honest about this, we'll never see that change. So here I am, trying to be very open about this and very honest about this, and I hope that it does not change your opinion of me. I am nervous but excited to see how the comments on this video go, and I hope we just have a lot of really cool, interesting, polite discussion and discourse. Anyway, have an awesome rest of your day, and I can't wait to sit down and hang out again soon. Bye!